welcome to another episode of It's Football Not Soccer with myself, Dan, and we've got Ben to my left.
Hello.
And Wig to my right.
Hello.
Clowns and jokers, you might say.
Sure.
Firstly, we should start with an apology for not having published anything published is the right word, but presented you with anything at least for the past couple of weeks. Because of quarantine and other such life-bearing problems.
Yes, it's the time of the year. There was a plague on my house. And
Yes, yeah. You had to travel in a separate plane from the rest of them like the Patriots did the other week.
That's it.
But we're back with a vengeance.
That's it.
We've had a couple of wild weeks of football, but that's been the season as a whole. I feel like that should be our catchphrase. It's been a wild week of football.
It's been a wild week of football.
It's been a wild week.
Started every podcast with that. You know how we said this might happen and this might happen? Yeah, that didn't happen and that didn't happen and that happened that nobody foresaw.
There's been a lot of that though.
There has been a lot of that. The bottom three teams this last week having won, for instance. Wow.
A lot of close games that went away that perhaps you wouldn't have thought of. Some games that weren't close at all.
Yes.
Players going off that you don't expect.
Yes.
Players you expect to do well are nowhere.
This season's felt very unpredictable compared to most.
It's felt a lot harder than previous years when we've played fantasy football and far less predictable.
Yeah. I think you can see that. I don't know if the listeners have got the same, but in our leagues, it's close. It's really tight.
So close.
Because those players haven't sometimes shown the consistency they maybe have done in the previous years.
Yeah.
Which is meaning sometimes you're having big weeks and then suddenly, boom, from nowhere, you're down. So.
It's felt like a boom or bust year.
Yes. Yeah. That's
You've had players that have been on form, you think let's put them in, and then nothing.
Yeah.
And others that have been poor, so you've either benched or dropped them, perhaps such as Chris Godwin, maybe. And then they've gone big and stayed big.
Yeah. I mean, the wide receivers, normally you can count on the established names being there.
Yeah.
It's normally, before the season there's an injury, this guy won't be up to anything.
Yeah.
But there's been big names in wide receiving that just haven't performed.
Amari Cooper of late. Where's he disappointed?
Vanished. Yeah.
Devontae Adams has found some form, but where was he?
Yeah, he's
Been
had a
all
couple
over.
of touchdowns now, hasn't he, which has made him
So
viable.
OBJ was literally a bust on it.
Yeah, I mean, OBJ drafted second round, you know.
Yeah, a lot of second round
Sometimes
picks.
Tail end of the first, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Banking on a big season, gone.
Yeah.
Adams has not been...
Adams has had injury. I must
has.
defend him in that respect. Because
Yeah.
I've been sat on him for the whole while and just waited. And it is paying off now.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
it's coming back.
Hopefully. Because this is the time when you need him to pay off.
But even Julio missed a game, so it's been tough.
Yes, that's an
That's
unusual
very
thing, isn't it,
unusual.
really? But he's not been setting the world on fire like he's been known to do in almost every other season that he's ever played.
Exactly, yeah.
He's currently, about wide receiver 15, 16, depending on the scoring format.
Maybe 11, I think. Maybe.
I think it depends on the format. With
Yeah.
him. But he's just not really felt like Julio of old.
No.
He's just not been there. He's not been bad. He's not been the disappointment that some
No.
players have. But
He's been a lot less of a disappointment than many other players.
Definitely. Well, Stefan Diggs is a strange one.
Yeah.
He was way up there. There was talk of him dropping into the third round with it for the drafting, even sneaking a bit lower. How happy would you have been if you got him at the tail end of the third now? Not as happy as when you picked him up, I bet.
No.
Yeah.
You could pick him off some waivers.
Yes,
It's been that bad. But it may or may not be your playoffs starting now, because a lot of leagues finish week 13, some finish week 14. Our sort of main league has got another week yet to play, and it's been that close that it's an 8-team league, which is very small, admittedly, but nobody in the top half is safe.
No.
Nobody in the top half, even at this stage of the season.
Well, 7 players could potentially get into the playoffs.
I think it's 5.
Is it 5?
Yeah, we had a little bit of a drop.
Well, no, you are right.
I think
you are
Jamie-
right. There's 7. There's 7 because there's top 2 that are 8 wins.
Yeah.
The next 3 are 7,
Yeah.
and the next 2 are 6.
Yeah.
So you're right. You're right. Yeah, it could be the top
Potentially.
7 teams.
For the
7
bottom-
of the 8
Yeah.
teams could still make the playoffs.
Mathematically, it's very unlikely for the bottom two, but that's
Yes.
how close it's been.
Yeah.
You know, which is great. It is great. For my team, I wish it was.
Better.
Yeah, let's say
Yeah.
that.
Well, I'm one of the 8 teams. One of the 2 teams with 8 wins. So
you
I'm,
are, Dan.
oh, I'm still nervous though.
Yeah, anything
This will
could
be
happen.
the first time you finish in the top half, won't it?
Shut up, you.
You lose and I win, I can put you down. So, yeah, anything could happen.
Oh
It's a big
boy.
week.
Yeah.
Big week.
Oh,
Yeah.
You know, it's when it counts, isn't it? This week is when it happens.
Well,
So,
you're playing top of the league, aren't you, Ben? So you've got it really rough this
I
week.
mean, I'm only up against Dalvin Cook and Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
You know, that's all. That's only the mountain I've got to climb.
Yeah,
Just a little hill, isn't it? It's just a little bump in the road.
kind of wish it did finish there as well, but
No, he's got a few other talents on his roster.
he's got a
Hooper,
couple of
who
wide
could
receivers.
return.
Yeah.
I don't think Cooper will play.
But if he does, you've got to play him, haven't you?
Yeah, maybe. But if he plays Hooper and Hooper's on a snap count and Cook runs out, they worry about that shoulder, they sit him down and tell him calm down again. Anything could happen. It's, as we've seen from this season.
Yep.
Um,
Nothing is set in
Well,
stone.
any team that looks good before they play seems to be the team that loses this season. So, Ben, your team's looking amazing. You got Chris Carson in your flex. You know, that's a fine pick. You know, could
Wow.
do you 20 points.
You say a
Not
fine pick. It's not ideal.
No.
He went from a game where he fumbled lots. He gave a touchdown away.
By benching himself.
His snap count has come down significantly as Penny comes up.
Well, how many? Has it been 9 fumbles he's had this year?
Oh, he's definitely got holes in his hands.
Butterfingers. So yeah, it's great. But question mark. Who's my other running back? Josh Jacobs.
You got Josh
Another
Jacobs,
great
yeah.
one. Oh, he's got a broken shoulder. That's ideal. That's what you want in a running back. They don't use their shoulders much, do they?
Oh,
no. It's only broken.
But
That's
surely,
fine.
Chubb against Cincinnati's,
Well, you
that's
would
easy
hope.
money,
I
right?
would hope.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
But the return of Hunt.
The return of Hunt, isn't it?
Exactly. If someone dragged out my running backs, give them a good kicking and sent them back in. But they've all got the potential to do well. I've got Mike Evans, who I feel like I'm playing Russian roulette. You just never know. He's either going to give you 4 to 5 points or 32 to 35. It's like...
Yeah, it's...
But I have been
Well,
crossing my
this-
fingers every week and hoping, and it's been a while. It has been a while.
This is how it works with him. He's currently, in the format we play, wide receiver 3 on the year as Mike Evans.
Yep.
So you've got to play him.
Oh, of course you have.
But for the last 4 weeks, he scored 5 points, 5 points, 6 points, and 8 points,
Yeah.
which is killer.
Awful.
Yeah.
Just killer. But the week before that was 24, and the week before that was 31, and you win a week.
Mike Evans could just come out and decide, I win.
Yeah.
I'm just going to win now.
Yeah.
Boom. I'm going to drop 3 touchdowns. It's going to be amazing. Or he might do nothing. But I've got to risk it. I'm playing top of the league. I've just got to go with my
All
guys.
guns blazing. Balls
Yeah.
out on the back.
That's it.
I did spot something in your lineup, and I've spotted it again. So I've got to bring it up and put you on the spot with it. You've got 3 defences in your lineup.
Yeah.
What's your defence?
Explain yourself.
What's that about?
Yeah, that's a questionable roster manoeuvre.
Have you seen something in the matchups coming up?
Well, who have I got? I've got New England.
You've got New England, so you've got to have.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Right. Is that not enough?
That's fine.
Or are
That's
you
fine.
playing protect them from others, competitors?
Because I don't think you need to with the other 2 you've got.
Well,
Who are the other 2?
Well, you've got on your bench the Chargers.
They get 2 players back this week, though.
I don't care who they get back. When you've got the Pats, why do you need the Chargers?
You could be stopping somebody else happening.
For the playoff week, they play
No, I believe I played the Chargers last week.
when they got 2 points.
Where they got 2 points. It was a solid 2 points. But
Well, who are
playing?
they due against?
Well, that was against Jacksonville, which is fair. But
Yeah.
before that, they scored 2 points. Before that, they were on bye. Before that, they scored 3. Before that, they scored 4.
But didn't they get the name's gone? They got players back last week.
Yeah, Derwin James came
On
back.
paper,
And-
if you've got Bosa's
and
playing
they had
fine
somebody
and he's
else
playing
out.
fit,
I
then
can't think who it is.
Yeah.
and you currently got Green Bay in your lineup.
Yeah.
You picked them up though, right? Just
Yeah.
this week.
Yeah.
So against Washington.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
which is fair enough.
Yeah, all on board with that because
Green Bay.
Haskins.
Yeah. I was trying to look for matchups for weeks
playoff.
15 and 16.
Yeah.
The Patriots are fine for that though. I know they got the Bills one week,
Yeah.
but haven't they got Miami? Miami.
Yeah. So we've got them there, and I'm just looking. There aren't that many players I needed to pick up this week. So my waivers, I was just sort of here and there.
Yeah,
I was just sort of keeping
the
a few
luxury of
bullets
multi-defences.
in the guns.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Keep
Yeah.
hold of
See
that
what
Chargers
happens.
defense just in case.
Yeah.
I think the Chargers were just a leftover. I haven't really sorted that
Some
out.
could question your taking seriousness of this league. Do you realise what's at stake?
Well, I was trying to look at quarterbacks and defenses that had good matchups coming towards the end, and just sort of making sure that I had the pieces that I wanted to put in for those matchups.
Okay, yeah.
Now Darnold, I was hot on. I thought he's got good matchups and he's on fire. He's gone over 20 points, over 20 points, over 20 points. And then I didn't play him that week because I was going to potentially play him this week, and he just bombed.
Yeah.
And I thought you can't trust him. He's not trustworthy. I'm not going to flex him in because I don't need to. I've
Who
got
did they play?
Russell.
Was it the Raiders?
No, they played the Raiders and they
they
destroyed the Raiders.
Utterly destroyed them.
Then they played.
Oh, they got stomped though, didn't they?
They did.
Bell had like 16 carries for 31 yards.
Who was it? Who did they play? Bengals.
The Bungles.
Which is a dead cert in all circles, would be considered a lock on your roster.
It's going to be great, isn't it? It's going to be good.
Yeah, he rushed 10 times for 32 yards and he had 5 targets.
Because Darnold was going Oakland, Bengals, Miami.
You set, happy with that, not a problem.
So Oakland, he set me up. He went, oh, look what I can do. It's going to be amazing. And then I was listening to around the NFL, and Dan Hansis is a big Jets fan, and he said, this is traditionally the game that the Jets just drop a ball on. They'll build you up, they'll build them hopes up, and then they'll just blow. So, in the sleeper...
He was right.
This is a poignant point for something we're talking about later. In the sleeper, I put Darnold in, so I streamed him.
Which in our sleeper league, by the way, for the listeners, is a dynasty league.
So in our dynasty league, my two quarterbacks are Aaron Rodgers and
Sam
Darnold. Now, I looked at the weather report for the game in
the Green Bay.
Yeah,
game.
and it was snowy, windy, and it said hard to move the ball. So I thought, it's going to be nice and sunny down in Miami, isn't it? So get Darnold in, he'll throw that ball. He's destroyed Oakland. He'll be great. So that was fine. But in my main league, I trusted the Jets fan. I thought he knows his team.
Yeah.
And you do know your team. You know when they're coming up to that cliff edge and they're just going to,
Bomb.
yeah. So in Russell went, and thank God because it won me the week. But Darnold didn't have a great game.
No,
No,
we did not.
No, we did not.
But yeah, so it is worth looking at matchups for week 14 and 15, and you know what your
16.
key games are going to
yeah.
be. So pay attention. But sometimes, you end up with a couple of defences as you're shifting things around that haven't quite worked. But what I've found is I let the waivers sometimes run. I've been towards the top end of one anyway, so I'll try and pick up our player, and then I'll see what other people have dropped.
Yeah, immediately that's the first thing I do. I'll see which waivers have gone through, because I'll normally lock in about 3 for the same player to drop. I'll think, I want him. If I don't get him, I want him. If I don't get him, I want him, and I'm happy to drop the same player for those 3 players. Sometimes if it's a player that's really looking hot, then I'll look to drop a couple of players. But then the next thing I'm looking for is who's been dropped. Yeah. Who's available now because they've had to make space for somebody else.
Yep.
Who's who's going to drop the Chargers defense to bring in one of these new players?
The red hot Chargers defense.
Yeah.
Well, you've done some bargain bin shopping though on those waivers. I mean, stealing.
I've done
a couple
some
of cracking.
Some
players.
of my best finds have been on the waiver wire.
But it's looking at your list with it, Dan. Like your team here, you've got Devontae Parker and Calvin Ridley, your two starting wide receivers. You've got Devontae Adams in your flex, he's your wide receiver one, isn't he?
Yeah. I've just put them in because they're all playing at 6 o'clock on Sunday.
You got Godwin.
Yes.
Yeah. So Godwin there and Metcalf, and you I don't see Metcalf getting past those guys at the moment.
Well, no, but I'm stopping somebody else having access to him.
Yeah, but I think he's gone big in the past, but the last few weeks he's been 5, 3, and 5.
Oh.
Yeah, he's really dropped off on his form because Lockett's not been there to take the double coverages and to take that focus away from him.
Well, no, that's what I'm thinking of. Was it the week before last when he had 2 massive or loads of drops?
He's had a lot of drops, yeah. I think just before we came on air with it, we were saying about it, and I said Metcalf had a few drops.
Yeah.
We were talking about who'd been targeted the most and not had the reception. So my first thought was who's dropped every ball of seen at it, Metcalf.
Yeah.
But that's been really the Seahawks who had a lot of drops recently, even though Wilson's still doing all right.
Oh, he's doing all right. Yeah.
You've got a right headache of wide receiver choices. And did you think that Devontae Parker would be leading the lineup for you at the start of the season?
No.
I don't think anyone thought Devontae Parker was going to be doing much.
Well, it's partially down to Preston Williams being out injured, isn't it?
It is, but he's been consistently kind of borderline playable for a long time.
Yeah.
And now he's the wide receiver one with Fitz trying to throw bombs. He's nice to have. He's a bit boom or bust with it potentially. But do you think you're going to have yourself a headache on wide receivers this week? Do you think you're going to outthink yourself picking the wrong ones?
I feel like I've had that most weeks.
Yeah. And you feel like the pressure's on because you're playing George, the current 2-time champion. And if you beat him, you relegate him to playing in the loser-offs.
I've only ever
So every eye is on you.
To give the listeners a bit of history here, whether they're interested or not, we've been in the league for about 5 years now. This is our 5th year. And we play each other twice because of how the standings are and the fact that it's an 8-team league. So it's quite good in that respect. I've beaten George twice, and both times have been inconsequential. I destroyed him at the end of the last game of the season last year. At 150 points to 70. I still ended up losing in the loser playoffs, and he won the Shiva. So it meant nothing. So this time I wanted to bury him into the loser playoffs.
So yeah, don't outthink yourself. With
I don't want to. I've looked at it and I'm fairly happy with how I've got it set at the minute.
Yeah, you're not playing Chris Godwin though.
I'm not playing Chris Godwin.
The wide receiver one on the year in this format, you're not playing.
Who do they play though?
Does it really matter who they play if he's
yes,
a wide receiver
because if you
one
look
on the year?
at his stats of late, haven't been.
No, he's had 1 game of 5, but he was 30 the week before.
And then 10, but then 7, 6, 6.
Yeah. That is the nature of this kind of wide receiver.
The books running.
Play any books, players, you're rolling the dice. Anything could happen.
Yeah.
You could chuck Peyton Barber in your lineup. You're just rolling the dice. Anything could happen.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So.
Running backs are problematic for me too.
I think you nailed on your running
quarterbacks.
backs. No, you've got Fournette and Zeke in, and you can put Montgomery in, but I would not touch him with a barge ball at this point.
No.
You know, everything lines up that Montgomery should be a go-to running back.
And I've played him the 2 weeks that he's been worth playing, thankfully, and I don't think there may have been 3.
The thing is, when he has a decent game, it's only just decent.
Yeah,
I think he's broke 20 points once in this format. No PPR, and he's just not been good enough at all.
No.
But you are a little bit slim on running backs, and that's a feature of running backs this year. They're really, we talked about the wide receivers to begin with. Running backs have been horrendous this year. It's been such a bad year for running backs, and I think that's contributed to the tumultuous nature of this season this year. Because before you looked at it, and if you'd got a couple of running backs who were solid, they could carry your team through a lot. This year he's struggling. Sure, McCaffrey and Cook, Henry. Yeah. After that, it's a bit all over the place.
James Conner's put a big hole in my season.
I've been pretty set with Fournette and Zeke. They've not been outstanding, but they've had sort of 10 points. They've been clearing 10 points most weeks, but each.
Scary thing with those two is that their consistency of 10 points has been enough to make them some of the more valuable running backs this year.
Yeah, I mean, Zeke's always got that sort of big game uptick. And Fournette's had he had a 27-point week a couple of weeks ago.
They're both in the top 10 of running backs in this format.
Yeah.
So you've done fine with them, but in this format, Austin Eckler has still managed to get up there.
That's most formats.
Yeah, but no PPR as well.
Yeah, he'd be better in PPR.
Yeah. But the last couple of weeks, he's only been scoring off his receptions, really.
Oh, yeah.
The touchdowns.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, he's been getting it. But a lot of them have come from receiving touchdowns. And still, he's managing to sit up there in the top 10 running backs in this format.
Yeah.
It's been pretty horrendous. Marlon Mack, he's running back 15. He's been out.
Not for very long, though.
Enough that you feel it if you own him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been out for 2 weeks.
Yeah. So
No,
it's not so bad.
Feels it.
It's because he's been so good when he's played, though, really.
Again, he's been good for this year's running backs, but he's consistent points. I mean, I'd be surprised if he's much over 10 points average. 11, nearly 12 points per average.
Well, that's good for a running back. I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, but when we're talking about a good running back, you're normally looking a bit more with it. Or at least that's what I hope for.
Well, yeah, you hope for more, but realistically, I think 12 points a week on your running back, you're happy with.
Yeah,
I would be.
The way it comes. Yeah, I would be this year, yeah. In years gone by, though, I would be looking at that being my flex running back and wouldn't be too happy with it. I'd be looking for which other running back's going to be getting me 20.
And there's two. There's Dalvin Cook and there's Christian McCaffrey. And if that's not your running backs...
If they're stacked,
you're
in trouble.
You just... Oh, yeah.
They're
just on one team.
Yeah.
Life's hard.
Well, Henry's the next best, and he's a ways behind Cook in this format. And then Aaron Jones is 20-odd points behind Henry after that. So the difference between Dalvin Cook and Aaron Jones, second and fourth, is 40 points.
No.
And then if you drop down to the running back 12, Todd Gurley, you take 40 points off him, that's a third of his points gone. He's only scored 120 on the year. It's crazy bad for running backs.
Yeah.
They're not getting the points.
It's all going to random wide receivers this year. There's been a lot more usage of many more wide receivers.
Yeah, it's been a lot more varied in the. It's not been as sort of clean cut as it would be
a lot
in
of
previous
teams have got
years.
2 viable wide receivers, and they're not viable together the same week.
But
so it's very scattered.
I think that's partly down to the fact that coaches, head coaches, and offensive coordinators don't want to be as predictable.
Yeah.
So they're not being as we're going to pass to him, or we're going to pass to our number one.
With the extra protection for the quarterback, it gives you that bit of opportunity for looking for
to
more
spread
options
your other options. Yeah, your read options.
Well, the 2 best running teams in the league, San Fran and Baltimore, it's almost impossible to play. You can go Ingram, and he can be there sometimes, and he can be off sometimes. San Francisco, you just
roll with the dice.
Who knows? Yeah. It's so hard. So these are yardages and points of running teams that are very difficult to predict for fantasy, which makes life very hard.
Yes. Yeah.
So you are looking at the teams that are using the bell cows, which is then Carolina Vikings, and then there's everyone else.
Yeah.
Now Oakland would be great, but they're not at the moment putting points on the board.
No.
They're not. If they're not getting the ball near the end zone, Jacobs isn't running you a touchdown in.
Yeah.
Chubb would be great, but they've been terrible on the goal line. Yeah. Their line can't seem to make a little hole at all. So Hunt is getting more, goal line work or passing work, and it's just
victims of circumstance.
A lot. Yeah. So
consistent bad teams as well. So the Jags, once they started to nosedive and really nosedived, Fournette's still doing things, but they're playing from behind so often that he just doesn't get the volume.
No, he's been involved a lot more in the passing game.
Yeah, which
a lot more in the passing game, which is very unusual for Fournette. But I'm glad that they have, because it's rescued me massively. He's got about maybe just shy of 400 yards on the year.
Receptions,
receiving yards.
No, I think he's eclipsing that.
Is he?
Yeah. He's having a blinder on the receptions. Yeah. So the last 2 weeks, something's happened. because in the last 2 weeks he's gone from being on 6 receptions roughly a game to being over 10 receptions.
Wow.
Targets a game.
Okay.
Yeah. So his last 2 games he's had 9 receptions.
Wow.
Yeah.
God.
He's had 12 and 11 targets, 9 receptions for crazy numbers really for Leonard Fournette.
Do you think that's going to continue in Minshew?
So 444 it is.
444 yards receiving.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Bonkers.
Very good.
Yeah.
And he's not been injured.
That's where he's been good.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's always been good in flashes in previous years, but there's always been an injury concern or he's out for a while.
He has just not had the touchdowns this year for us.
No,
It's
that's
been
the
a
only
real
thing that's
for him.
held him back. He's only had 1 rushing touchdown.
No, he
Oh,
picked up
yeah.
a couple the other week when he went.
Oh,
big.
yeah, when he went big, yeah.
But before that, for the whole season, he'd only scored 1 against the Panthers early. Well,
Wow.
after like week 5 or so. Yeah,
That is a bit bleak.
Yeah.
it is. And he, for all them receptions, he's got no touchdowns out of them. So he's only being used for yardage, middle of the field style.
But it helps.
It helps, but yeah, it's a
Yeah.
the state of the running backs. I mean, Alvin Kamara's the one. I know he's been injured with it, but he's average points about 11.5 points.
Yeah.
When you were drafting him and you were picking him up early.
You're hoping for 16, 17
Yep,
points.
that's it. You're hoping last year, 1-man team.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it was huge
That's
last
it.
year.
And the big one, Saquon Barkley.
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I know he's been injured, but being an owner of him in so many leagues, I've gone back and done a bit of a dive on him, and I think it's quarterback.
Yeah,
It's
I
just
think
the quarterback.
I think it is.
He's constantly open in space, and he looks right past him downfield and wants to throw a bomb every time. And Barkley's just stood there and stood there.
So, this week...
This week could be Barkley week.
Eli's
So
back.
it's because I'm making a prediction on him. He'll probably break in the first quarter after 2 minutes. Probably after a fumble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leave him with negative
That's it.
points before he goes off injured.
But they've moved Barkley into this weird kind of position where he pass blocks more than he receives. So rather than taking a man out to cover him, or potentially 2 men out wide because he can make 1 dodge, the Giants have taken that out of their game. I'm not sure if you watched him too closely last year with it, but when they were throwing it to him in the flat, someone had come at him as soon as he's getting the ball and he'd make him miss with only like a yard or 2 of space, and then he'd be off. And they've just taken that out of their game. They just don't use it anymore. And what they do instead is they run Barkley down the middle, over and over.
I also think part of his, certainly the tail end of the year, is because of his injury.
A little bit with it, but I think he's recovered
I'm
from that a
putting-
lot as well.
But he's been playing on it. I think he came back too soon
But why put him on the field then?
because he wants to play.
But
He
they're
wants to
not- they're
play.
not
You want to
playing him.
use him.
No, they're just making him stand on the field where he can take a hit.
That's
potentially.
me. I think it's a dreadful idea, but I think
Yeah.
that's why he's not been what he's
I don't think
anywhere
it's
near his potential.
No, he was playing fine when he was getting the ball the other day. I mean, it's what's it with him. He's not been great. You know, he has not been great. But he got a bit more usage last week and looked good on it.
Well, he's probably fully healed now.
Yeah, but even when he wasn't, and he'd just come back from the injury, so he came back from the injury for 14 points and 20 points, were his 2 weeks back.
Okay,
Yeah.
alright, okay.
And then after that, they just decided to stop throwing it to him. They just massively underused him since then. It's really weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. But when he was fit, start of the season, he did well. Got
Yeah.
injured, missed a chunk of time, came back, scored well, and then they just stopped using him properly. He's got an overinflated amount of carries, but more than 2/3 of them are for a yard or 2 forwards.
Yeah, not as much.
And that is not Barkley. You want Barkley to bounce outside and go.
Do you think the line has been an effect?
No, I think it's quarterback. I think the quarterback just does not use him in the same way that Eli did to throw out to the flat to him.
Is that play calling now? Is that the quarterback?
I think it might be.
The other thing, yeah,
The-
because
the-
they
no,
had
sorry,
Ben
I think it might be
McAdoo.
the quarterback.
Ben
I don't think
McAdoo
it's-
they had last year, who's renowned for short yardage gains because it's a stat building
That's what
thing.
Jones was brought in for. He was brought in because he was this really reliable short yardage quarterback.
But Ben McAdoo isn't there anymore.
But you brought the quarterback in to throw for that, and then instead he's looking
That's-
for bombs deep
that's-
downfield to a really weak wide receiver core.
That's a bad draft then.
Sterling Shepard, Golden Tate. You know,
Yeah,
they're not
perfect
terrible.
for that.
Darius Slay with it. turned
Perfect
up.
for that.
Darius, sorry, I always get
Slayton.
confused to Slate.
Slayton.
Slayton, there we go. But the three of them, neither of them are fantastic.
What? They're
They're
not fantastic.
no.
They are rock solid receivers.
Go look at the stats, none of them have been good.
I think it's how you define fantastic.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't define any of them
Yeah.
fantastic.
When Cole Beasley makes all of your wide receivers look like wide receiver twos,
1 week.
Cole Beasley.
Yeah.
I'm not on about his stats. If we're not talking stats, I'm on about how well he plays. Cole Beasley makes stuff happen.
Golden Tate. I can't.
Golden Tate's seen it, mate. He's been around a little bit too long.
I think he's still got it.
Well, he's certainly still got enough to catch the odd touchdown, but
I like Sterling Shepard too.
it's just because you've been around a while.
It's an old man, Dan Peck.
It is. Imagine Steve Smith. Draft him if I could.
Sterling Shepard's like 3 years in the league.
Yeah, but he feels like an old man.
No!
Don't.
No.
But I think the head coach is out of the door.
Gotta be.
He's done.
Yeah. There's a lot of rumoured sackings and things like that going on. Doug Marone or
That time.
who's their director of football or whatever his title is. McLaughlin, is it? The old Giants coach. He's the other one rumoured to. One or both of them are rumoured to be leaving.
Paved the way for the clapper. Okay.
So which teams could well be losing managers before the end of the season at this point?
Well, there's the big one which shocked most people, I think,
Yeah.
with
Didn't see that
Rivera,
coming, Rivera off.
who only has this shocked me. I think has he been 9 years? How many winning records do you think he'd have as a Panthers head coach?
Well, he won Coach of the Year twice, so I'm going to go for a minimum of 2.
Well, educated guess.
So I'd say 4.
In 9 years, with Cam Newton having been there for about 7.
I can't remember him being terrible.
No, but winning record. That's generally the sort of
like 5-6 wins.
break point,
kind of.
isn't it? No, just over 50.
No,
over
I'm
50%.
thinking like worst case. Like even if they were doing bad, they probably were getting a decent amount of wins for others.
Oh, okay, yeah. I see
I
what you
don't
mean.
think they were like
So,
2 wins on the season.
9 wins minimum. He's only done it 3 times.
Yeah, I thought it would be
Really?
something
Only
similar.
done it 3 times.
It's difficult.
That's
though.
It is, but that's surprising for a coach that's been in a team there, and you wouldn't consider him unsuccessful.
No.
A lot of that can be banged up a lot though. So he was banged up last year, and I'm guessing they didn't get they can't have got a winning record last year with it from that then. Cam was broken. From
Yeah, they didn't have a good year.
The year before that, he just didn't have a great year. It wasn't bad.
That was the post Super Bowl year, wasn't it?
That's
When
it.
he was sort of sulked and
Yeah.
had a bad year.
There's a Super Bowl year where he was good.
Yes.
The year before that where he was good.
Yeah.
That was Super Cam year.
Yeah.
And then
I think it perhaps might have been the year before. I'm not too sure, but I just
it's
found
very
it
good.
quite a surprising statistic for
but I'm trying to think of the supporting weapons because he's never had good wide receivers. over
Steve
the last
Smith.
He's never had good receivers over the last few years. Steve Smith was more a personality.
No way! No way! Don't you dare!
So
Steve Smith was a hell of a receiver.
yeah, he was good, but
Fucking amazing. Sorry for swearing.
so yeah, I don't think they've had the best tools there around Cam for a lot of that
They've
time.
always had a good defense. I think they've
Yeah.
been very much defense led for a lot of their career. Ron Rivera's time.
Serviceable running back game.
Yeah.
I don't think it was necessarily what he was doing. I think it was more the new owner wanting to stamp his personality on the new team.
Do you think it might also be the end of the Cam era? They want to come in fresh with a new coach and a
brand new.
quarterback to work together.
Yeah, I
One
can see that.
that sort of complements each other's style. Obviously, there's rumours of the Cowboys
That was where my thinking was going.
head coach
Yeah.
Garrett's
Garrett's got to
Super
be
Bowl
out
or
that door.
bust is basically what Jerry Jones has said.
Yeah.
This team is capable of winning a Super Bowl.
Their defense is letting them down, I think.
Their
defense is just
talent is their roster is packed with talent.
Mm-hmm.
They've had a few injuries, admittedly, which are problematic.
On the defense, yeah.
And it shouldn't be 6-6. That's not a 6-6 team. This is not a team that loses to the 2-9 Dolphins, which are now 3-9. That was a nail in the coffin.
I wonder the last time a coach...
Cowboys. Bills, I mean.
Wonder when the last time a coach was fired when he won his division.
Yeah, it's going to be a big question mark. Because he could very well do the Cowboys thing, get into the playoffs and lose.
Yeah.
And then he's going to get sacked. But he'll have won his division, he'll have got into the playoffs.
Yeah,
but that seems to be his ceiling.
And that's only because the Eagles flunked
Yeah.
against the Dolphins is what I meant. It was the Cowboys that lost to the Bills.
Yes.
But that's a much more acceptable loss.
It is much more acceptable loss.
This year. But yeah, I don't think the Cowboys are now going to win the Super Bowl.
No.
I think they're going to...
No, I could not. I don't think they're capable of doing it. I don't know if it's coaching. I don't think it's personnel. I think it's coaching.
I think it is partly coaching. I think Amari Cooper's got this horrible thing of vanishing act.
But they've got other weapons.
Yeah.
Gallup and Cobb have both
Cobb
proved that
great.
they can play well.
Gallup's been consistent for the season. Witten's having a good year.
Yeah.
You know,
All
the pieces are
reliable.
there.
Yeah.
They've got Zeke,
The
who's
Warhorse.
good still. Pollard's a real good backup
but
to
Zeke
it.
is not. They're not playing him to set the world on fire. They're not hammering him.
no.
He is not the focal point of that offense. He's not the spear point. Why?
But they've put
If
money
they-
in him now.
if
So
they
if he breaks, they're stuck with him.
If they stuck with Zeke against the Bills, it would have been a different game.
Yeah.
He got over 100 yards
And so
against the Bills in the first half.
consistently.
But
been
then they
getting
just
good.
changed their style after the second half. And, okay, they're trailing. But if you've got a running back that's going to just keep running on a team, you're going to keep moving the ball.
You've got to break
You'll
it
lose
up.
out on the clock, but you will move the ball.
You've got to force them to leave some people back. You can't let
Of
them
course.
just stack the box.
No,
up
no.
with 10
Obviously,
people.
I don't mean when I say run the ball. I don't mean every play. I mean
But when
break it up. But
Zeke's averaging like 5-point-something yards a carry in the game.
God,
Give him the ball more.
Give him the ball. It was more than that in the first half.
Yeah.
It was more than that.
Garrett could be done.
Well, the meme going around is the picture of his face with the intense eyeballs, and it's the when you realise you'll be coaching the Jets next year.
Wow, Gaze is terrible, isn't he?
God, yeah.
But
Awful
he's been
coach.
given another year.
He has. They've said he'd be there. I mean, they might be
That's
lying.
That's a dreadful decision.
I'm pretty sure they said they were going to overuse Bell, so they've got a consistency of line as an organisation now.
Yeah, I think he's sort of given himself a bit of breathing space, Gase,
There's just a
with a
funk
couple of
over-
decent wins.
over them.
Yeah,
They
totally.
don't
I think
feel
it's a
like-
dreadful decision, and I think they should get rid of him. However,
Mm-hmm.
I think they stick with him, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think unfortunately.
Who else might be for the chop, perhaps?
Sherman?
Giants. Yeah.
Yeah. He can't stay.
Something has to go there. Something has to go. Coordinator or head coach. There needs to be a change there. And I think Eli Manning might highlight that.
It's going to
Now
look
he's sorted.
terrible for them if he comes
I
out.
really do.
blitzes.
I really do. I think they
Happens
should
a
have
lot,
stuck
that
him.
does, though.
I really think they should have stuck with him as a quarterback for a bit longer.
It started all right, though. Started
It
all
did
right.
start okay, but I think it showed after maybe because he started 2-0. I think Daniel Jones did, didn't he?
Yeah, but he looked phenomenal to start with that like cannon laser arm that he got on the go. And then I think he got this weird confidence that he could do it.
And then this
never stopped.
this lack of experience comes in and making the wrong reads.
I'm sure
on
he's
wrong
thrown the
passes.
ball more than 20 yards, more than he's thrown it less than 20 yards.
Possibly.
Because
yeah.
every time he gets that option, he just looks up and looks straight downfield, and he doesn't look what's going on in front of him at all. I'll stop on about that.
Someone who drafted Saquon.
Bit to you.
The voice of an angry man.
Kitchens, Freddie. We like him. He's
Oh.
a lovely guy, but
Not a head coach.
No
he's
discipline.
not a head.
No discipline in that team, and that has
Can't-
cost the Browns big.
Yeah,
This
and he
season.
can't make play calls when it counts. just consistently calls the wrong play. He's like, which would be the worst play? Let's go with that play. How's it feel in the red zone this year?
Awful.
Yep. Do you think that's a lot down to the players or down to them being told to do the wrong thing at the wrong times?
Or partially down to playing the Bills.
But the amount of attempts should have hammered through.
That was insane.
They could have at that point
They
been
had
getting
9 attempts to go 2 yards, and they went 1.
Awful. And that's just play calling, I think.
They did still win, unfortunately.
Yeah. But it's just... So, he's a nice guy, but I don't think he's going to win them anything.
This is a nice guy that wore Steelers Started It t-shirt.
His daughter bought that t-shirt for his birthday. What do you want the man to do? Throw it in the face?
Not wear it out in public.
You need to go out, didn't they? I don't know. So have a bit of banter. I like a rivalry. Sometimes people are just too goddamn nice.
Yeah.
No, let's get a bit of rivalry in it. First time
I
I watched American football, I couldn't believe that the away supporters sat with the home supporters. Why are they not tearing? Yeah, it's your mortal enemy. What are you doing?
When the player jumps into the crowd after scoring a touchdown and they're surrounded by the opposition fans, and I can't help but think soccer.
Oh my life.
Yeah.
And I've seen a player fall into the stands in English soccer, in the lower leagues, admittedly. And it's not pleasant for them. They don't want to do it. They're going to get stomped on. They're going to get a ribbing. Don't do it.
And, football's a healthy sport, Everyone's happy with it. Get a bit of a rivalry is what I say. So no, I don't besmirch him for that.
The problem with the rivalry is, Ben, they tried to decapitate the Steelers players a couple of weeks before. There's a rivalry and there's an assault.
Yeah.
Wow.
You say potato.
It's a rough game, isn't it?
Yeah, where you're left bleeding from your ears, it's a bloody rough game.
Well, that was an in-play action, in deliberate.
Mate, the play had ended 3 seconds ago. I'd stood up to go and make a cuppa.
Wow.
And then I heard a crack and turned around.
Realised it was your knee.
It was unfortunate, and the Garrett incident, he had his helmet tried to take off him first, and he was pulling at his helmet, wasn't he? Come on.
He was, yeah. There was a bit of both
What
on doing
stance are
it.
you taking here, Ben?
Just saying.
It was all fair.
There were arguments on both sides.
Yes.
Until he started
Yes.
smacking him in the head with the helmet.
Wow.
An unprotected head.
Yeah.
With his own helmet. Yeah.
I mean, it's embarrassing, really, for Rudolph that his helmet came off and then he got beat with his own helmet.
Talk about a guy who's had a bad day.
It's good that we can laugh about it now,
we
though.
can.
Oh, yeah.
Casual on-field assault. But no, I mean, that highlights the problem. Discipline.
Discipline.
Yeah, discipline.
And how many penalties have they
Too many.
afforded?
That should never have happened.
No.
And the Browns now
No.
have lost their best player for the rest of the season.
And the foreseeable.
He'll be back
He'll be
after, I
back,
think.
yes.
He won't.
Well, it's an undefined,
which
they've never given before.
It'll be
And
right
they're
out your
not
line.
technically allowed to do. Or it's never been done before, and it's not technically accepted, but because of the severity of it, you can't be certain.
There'll be a punishment.
It needs to be shown he can't do it.
Other than that, I think the Chargers head coach could be a head for the block.
Rivers goes, head coach goes, starts
Yeah,
fresh.
you often see that.
The talent they've had on their team, they should have done better.
Certainly. I know Rivers has had a bad year, but there is a lot more talent still on that. And actually, I might retract that because their defence got obliterated by... In fact, their whole team got obliterated by injuries early on, and the Melvin Gordon holdout. So I think they've just had a lot of injuries.
I know.
So
Glasgow's been there for a few years, and he's not really done a great deal.
No, he's... Yeah. Although last year they were...
This is his
12,
sixth season.
they were in
Last
the
year
playoffs.
was
12 and
last
4
year was
last
probably the
year.
best year.
Beat the Ravens in the playoffs, that blueprint, which I want to see if people do again. Come to the playoffs suddenly, boom. All your little guys come on defence and you just jump on Lamar whenever he's got the ball.
Yeah.
Word, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. Shut him right down.
Mm-hmm.
But okay. Yeah, I mean, I think he could go because Rivers very much could be playing his final days of football. He's looked poor.
Yeah.
That interception
Are they gonna have-
through was
yeah.
oh.
Yeah, but he's done it consistently this year. Like,
Yeah,
it gets
so-
close at the end of a game and he just throws it away, and then he has a temper tantrum on the floor. Yeah, there's going to be when he retires, there's going to be some really funny videos of his temper tantrums about. It's going to be fantastic. But if he was to go and they've got a little bit of salary left over, they've got the best part of 30 million. So they could look at some free agents there to bring
That's
them in.
sort of pre-contract and
Yeah.
everything as well.
So that
they
smells
could-
like
could
maybe a
feel
new
that.
head coach as well. Just,
Mhm.
you know, this one's not done anything. He's had his man at quarterback. Time to move on.
Yeah.
Certainly a chance.
What about the Jags, do you think?
Yeah, well, like I
I
say,
think
either
they're probably
Marone
safe.
or McLaughlin has been put forward for the block is on the
Yeah.
rumour mill. So head coach or exec director of football or whatever his
I-
role is.
Yeah. I
'Cause they've
genuinely
not
think they
been-
need a year.
They've been awful.
They've
Yeah.
been really bad,
Yeah.
and they were a good team the past 2 years.
But they sold key parts of the defence off and didn't
But
really
they've
do
got-
much.
Yeah, they've got a good defence.
No,
I
they've had a
think-
good defence. They've not had a good defence this year.
People
It's
need to
done
lose
nothing.
the job for what they've done at quarterback. I mean, they paid Bortles. They paid him. And
Yeah.
then they got rid of him because he was awful. They
Yeah.
brought in Foles. They paid him. They paid him big money. And now they've
He was a
benched him.
hot commodity,
with
though, to be
Foles
fair,
is-
with Foles.
Yeah, I think Foles isn't the problem there. Like, having watched them with that, Foles was hung out to dry in that one. Just, it didn't feel like it was Foles' fault. It felt like he was just constantly under pressure. There wasn't anything for him to do.
Well, people were quick to forget how bad Minshew did in London, weren't they?
Yeah, really
I mean,
quick.
no, bring him back. He's great. Whoa,
He's a
you
good
weren't
personality.
saying that when he
Yeah.
was doing nothing.
Sometimes it's just that motivational lift, though. Just from a persona, from a... He had a few good games. We've not given Foles chance to replicate that. So we'll go with what we've seen and not give the Foles the opportunity to show what he's got, really.
Yeah. No, it's something else for him.
Could be big changes there. But the carousel will start winding up soon, won't it? And people will start leaving. And
Yeah.
Well, see
yeah.
some coordinators bumped up to finish out the coaching.
yeah.
Yeah, look a bit different in a few weeks.
Yeah. So we've got 3-4 weeks left of football to go. So
Oh.
Yeah.
a lot can be decided in that time. A lot. Well, 4 weeks of regular season football, even. Playoffs beyond that. So a feature we did before we had a little break
Yeah.
was I think I picked a waiver wire team
You
Yeah.
did?
which didn't perform very well.
No, mate, it was horrendous.
It was really, really bad. But I think it's spurred on a little bit of competition between us.
Exactly.
So
Yes.
now Ben and Wig both think they can do better than I did on my team pick, which then that week certainly yes. Yes, they could.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
didn't do particularly well.
Yeah.
I think you got about
50.
50
About
points.
50
Maybe
points.
52 if we're generous.
Yeah.
I think it was 52.
Okay, thanks. Wig, I appreciate
It's alright, mate. I was very desperately worried you were going to outscore me, so.
it. So
Looking at these
basically,
teams we picked here, there is a real possibility that one of us is going to destroy our actual team's
Oh,
budget.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So what we were looking to do is highlight the players that are left out there after your waivers have run. So your
Yeah.
waivers have gone. So this is our 8-man league. Our waivers have run. This is what is left.
Yeah.
So we each drafted a team in order. You know, the old snake draft route. And this is what we've ended up with.
Yeah.
And I think the person who wins gets a beer off.
Of the others.
Yeah.
Sounds fair
That's
to me.
that's a fair wager, I reckon.
Sounds good. That's going good. Okay. I was first draft, so I will run through my team first. So I started with Miles Sanders, who has got a good matchup this week.
And Jordan Howard is still out injured, not training.
You haven't really got much competition there either. It's just Jay Ajayi who's probably going to take a few touches, but he's not really looking
That
good.
that is an incredibly good pick from the waivers.
Mm.
I'm shocked that he's still there.
I'm
Yeah.
shocked you've got David opportunity and haven't picked him up.
Yes, I'm quite annoyed with myself, and think that might be my next course of action, as long as that's not what you're doing right now, Wig or Ben.
I
You've
am
both got access to your
quickly
phones
going
whilst
through my
I'm
phone while we're
handicapped.
So hopefully we're
So
on the
who's
Giants.
Who's your second pick?
My second running back is Ronald Jones. Now, Rojo is dangerous. He got benched this week because he didn't pick up a blitz.
Yeah.
So he didn't do what he should have done, and boom. No more football for you for that week. No more fantasy points. But he has the potential to get a touchdown. He has the potential to have a good game. You just don't know. He has got a bad matchup, so I don't know. A bit worried. But he's there. He can do it. Wide receivers. So my 2 wide receivers, and this is where I was most happy with my draft. I picked up James Washington.
Yep.
Who's getting great targets from the Duck.
The new Juju.
He's playing Arizona. This could be a big week.
Yep. Could well be.
Then the man Robbie Anderson, who's not had the world's greatest season.
I don't know why.
He's had flashes.
Yeah. There's a good player there.
Yeah.
I don't understand why he's consistently underused.
Who knows? But he's playing Miami. So if he's going to have a good week, it's going to be this week. This could be a shootout or Donald.
Seems to be Miami's way. They're just trying to make it entertaining now to get people in the building. So just throw that ball, make it fun.
Yeah.
My quarterback is Mr. Mayfield. So he's had some ups and downs.
Yeah.
But he's playing the Bengals. Anything could happen. Could be a big game for him. So I've got my faith in Baker. My tight end is Fowles. So he's the Houston tight end. And he has had a great year when it comes to red zone targets and touchdowns.
Yes.
He has had an atrocious year when it comes to
targets
and yardage.
Yep.
So let's just hope that he sees the end zone a bit and they get a few tight end balls down there. So that
with this being our little mini draft, Darren Fells was the tight end 1 taken off the board. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's alright. Makes me chuckle that I'm losing the league and that's my tight end, and in some situations this year sucked.
In my flex, I've decided to go with a bit of a play for Curtis Samuel. So he's a big hitter.
Yeah.
He's either going to get some big passes. So he's a Carolina wide receiver 2, but he's their deep threat. And I think he's had a cracking season, considering where he was. He's developed a bit. I like him. Big player. Now, my defence search, I'm starting to worry slightly about, but is the Eagles.
Oh, you're hoping the Chargers would be there, Ben?
Oh, well, yeah. But I've got them on my roster, haven't I?
No. That's what I'm getting at.
So, yeah. So they had a bad outing, didn't they, Wig?
Yeah, let's not. Dolphins put up nearly 40 points on us. Dolphins!
Wow.
But the craziest trick, the Dolphins in the past 2 weeks, I think, have had potentially 2 of the best plays of the year.
Yeah. The kicker touchdown.
Yeah.
Great touchdown. Well, at the time of recording, the Eagles were available for Ben, but they've since been snapped up. Spite of Ben being concerned about that.
Well, my concern was after
the Dolphins' performance.
Plus they're playing the Giants, and with what Wig said about
Eli Manning,
utilisation of Saquon Barkley, he's going to go off for 3 touchdowns, isn't he? He's going to hammer him. But
don't, because I'm tempted not playing this week.
But there you go. I've gone the Eagles. They're playing the Giants. The Giants have been awful at everything.
Yeah.
And I don't imagine Eli's going to change that.
Yeah.
But and then kickers, for whatever's that worth, apparently we still pick them. I've got Mason Crosby because he's in a dome. That's it. That's the only reason.
That's fine.
And that is my team. And I am honestly worried that could outscore my actual team.
It's a good team. It's a good team. So with my team, there's a lot of picks that at the time seemed like good ideas, but are very questionable in hindsight now. I've sat down and thought about it.
A lot of the time you do that to me with this kind of stuff, Dan.
I know. Anyway, so my first pick was
Mattison.
Mattison.
Fine though in these.
Oh yeah.
It's paid off.
Yeah, it's because I'm normally picking up your trash.
Yeah. Wait and see what we've got.
Yeah. So first pick was Matteson for me.
Mm-hmm.
On the basis that he got a lot of usage last week due to Cook's injury, and I think they're feeling a bit playoff. They're considering the playoffs now, and the longevity of playing Cook all year long. It's starting to take a toll on himself.
I think if they get ahead, they'll
Matteson
bench
brings
Cook,
in.
and
Yeah,
they'll bring in
yeah.
Matteson, and then they'll run the clock down with Matteson,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
he could get a lot of garbage time yards,
Which
and
I'm
even
happy with.
touchdowns.
I'm happy
Yeah.
Second pick, Duke Johnson. Because
I think he's been flex worthy.
He's had some decent games already this year. So that's my number 2 running back. Then I've gone for Sterling Shepard, which might not come as a surprise to you, Wig, given my earlier protestation.
High quality wide receiver 3 material.
Yeah.
Actually, the first tight end that came off our board was Janu Smith, which I picked up in the 4th round.
There we go.
Okay, yeah.
Because they play somebody who's really low ranked, Oakland Raiders.
They do.
Titans.
They do.
Yes, they do. Yeah, the Oakland Raiders, who are about 27th against tight ends. He's had some really good games. Delaney Walker's out for the year, so yeah, I don't need to explain that any further.
No, not at all.
Jamison Crowder next, who's still target heavy. He didn't have a good week last week, but then the next pick after that really annoyed me because he went with Boyd, which I think I should have gone for instead.
I was calling him for you while we were doing it. I did keep saying, "Are you going to take your boy? Are you going to take your boy?" And I think my mind games worked on you.
So yeah, I'd gone with Crowder, just down to volume. And next up, Fitzmagic.
Can't argue with that.
That will win you this
Patrick
the week
as my QB. Yeah. Then for my flex, I've gone for Anthony Miller, which surprised both of you a little bit. But he's had 6 receptions in his last 3 games. Taylor Gabriel's out for this week. They've got a reasonable matchup. Trubisky has come on quite a lot lately. So I'm hoping he has a decent game there. And then I've gone for the Titans defense, who again are playing the Raiders, who, if it's anything like the game they had 2 weeks ago.
Last 2 weeks.
Last 2 weeks.
Awful.
And the Titans defense has been, let's face it, it's been well serviceable. It's been really good.
It's been good on the field, not so great in fantasy.
No, it did. They got a pick 6, didn't they, last week?
Yeah, they've done decent last week. But before that, they've been doing good on the field. But it's that age-old one in fantasy football where you see something good happen and it doesn't always translate to getting points out.
Yeah. And then Hauschka as my kicker to finish it off, because the Bills play the Ravens, and I don't think the Bills will score many touchdowns, but I think they'll get up the field with an opportunity to kick.
Where are they playing?
It's at Buffalo.
Ah, well, I'm going with it anyway.
Okay.
Hauschka.
There you go.
He
knows how to get into the win, doesn't he?
He's got the lowest percentage of field goals this season. It's P18.
Yeah, so it got to me with my 3rd pick, and I think I got a bit lucky in spotting something a bit further down that maybe wasn't obvious. The return of Carry-On coming off IR this week.
Yes.
So finding a sneaky RB1 just lying around on the waivers. Bit risky with the IR, but looks like he's fit. He's an RB1.
How's he performed this year? In this?
He's an RB1.
I think Sanders is a better pick.
Sanders is a better pick, but he wasn't there.
Yeah.
But I would have taken Carry-On as my 2nd pick. So I would have had Carry-On, would have picked him up early.
Yeah.
Mosit as the other pick.
Yeah,
That's
great.
A bit of a roll of the dice, but he's got the hot hands at the moment, and he looked good.
He looks really good.
Looked good. So I was quite happy with my running back 1 and 2. I think realistically, there are people who've struggled with running backs this year that could have ended up a lineup anyway.
Yeah.
And I could have seen someone with that. Next up, went for my wide receiver 1, which was Manuel Sanders.
Good pick.
Yeah, that's a legit wide receiver 1. Just sitting on the waivers, feeling pretty good about it. Went in for the first quarterback off the board. Took Brady, who's playing against the Chiefs.
Yeah.
There's a good chance that could turn into a shootout.
Could
Might
be,
have
but
to.
I don't think Brady's got it in him.
He ain't got weapons. Guns ain't
It's
there.
not been thrown.
If only AB was on the field.
Still finds people to throw to. That still clocks up, and he's managed across the season to sneakily work his way into being nearly a top 5 quarterback.
No, he's outside. He's 11th.
He's 11th, yeah.
Yeah, no, he's not far off.
11th. It's not a top 10.
No, but not far off. Boyd as the other wide receiver after playing some mind games with you.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling pretty comfy with them. Then I've taken a real bit of a gamble.
It could pay off, I think.
It could well do because the situation's there with it. But Darwin Thompson in the flex. Now I've been on the Darwin Thompson hype for the whole season.
Yeah.
And it finally feels like it might pay off.
Yeah.
So I've got to take a bit of a gamble on him. Pretty confident that I'll get some points out of him. There's a good chance that he'll get a touchdown because there isn't any other running backs to give it to. Then on to tight end. Sneaky pick up of Gasecki. He's actually getting the usage. I think over the last couple of weeks he's in the top 5 of tight ends. The Bucks defense, they are on fire. They've picked sixes in the last few games. They've been in big scoring games and still come out with points because they're doing things during those games. So I think the Bucks might be a sneaky one going forward. And then I've not picked my kicker. Last pick, can pick a kicker. We've got Matt Gay, we've got Matt Prater. They're both kicker number 4, sharing points.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't think any of them have an edge over each other this week, but I think someone who does potentially have a bit of a resurgence this week is Slay, however you want to say his
the
name.
Panthers kicker.
Panthers kicker. He's been a bit of a forgotten man. He hasn't been used much.
No, he's been bad.
Yeah, it's not been fantastic, but I think he finds a bit of form this week. Playing against the Cardinals, he's going to have a lot of opportunities at kicking.
That's who I picked when I did my waivers. Just as a heads up, that's who I picked.
There you go.
And he got 1 point.
Well, I'm going to risk it because I've got a long tradition this year of not picking the right choice, so I'll stick with him. But I'm feeling like that team could genuinely beat my team.
Well,
like
that's
if
a
I
worrying
lined up
state
against
to-
it,
yeah, that's
I
a
think I
worrying
look
state
at
to
it.
be.
I mean, my team looks fantastic on paper, and when I look at a team that just looks like it might do all right, it seems to do fine.
Yeah.
And I really like them wide receivers. I'm tempted to go get them wide receivers now. Like Emmanuel Sanders and Boyd.
Yeah.
I've got Tyler Lockett and Hill and John Brown and Stephon Diggs. You know, I've got loads of wide receiver names and none of them I trust.
No.
I mean, John Brown's been consistent this year, really. He's had 1 or 2 games low and a couple of games high, but he's been consistent.
It's only him and Michael Thomas up until last week that had received 50 yards or more in every game.
Yeah.
But he didn't make it last week.
If you count his passing yards as well, he did.
Yeah, but he doesn't score the same for fantasy, does it?
No, but it's still technically passing yards, right? Just don't
Receiving yards.
Receiving yards.
Yeah. So tune in next week to find out how we fare on that front.
If anyone's crying when it kicks in, you'll know what's happened.
Yeah. So that's it from us guys for our main pod. But if you are interested in our Pick'em and Survivor, we'll be releasing that tomorrow night or the following night. So so thanks for listening, and that's goodbye from us.
Yeah,
Goodbye
best of
from
luck
us.
if you're trying to get into your playoffs or it's your first week. And we'll see you next week, hopefully when I'm in the playoffs as well.